Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Just One More Level podcast. I am your co-host, Christian.
And I am your co-host, John.
And today we played a little bit of Jack 3. It took me a second to remember what game we had played.
Oh,
John,
yeah,
Jack 3.
yeah.
We've done all three main games in the Jack series at this point.
We have.
I know,
Yes. Yes.
it's crazy to me. Like, I mean, okay, so full disclosure though, we did not finish all three games in the series.
No.
As anyone who's been watching for a while knows, Just One More Level podcast is the podcast where we talk about video games that we try out to see if it's something that's worth playing more of at the end of the day. And I believe we both agreed that Jack 1 was excellent and we would play more of that if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Jack 2 we were both a little more iffy on, but I think we agreed at the end of the day we would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds right. And then
Right.
Jack 3, though. So Jack 3 kind of follows in the footsteps of Jack 2 with being a little bit more of an open world with a city that you run around in and you know, GTA style missions where you find NPCs, you talk to them, they tell you to go do something, you go do it, you come back, repeat the process over and over again. How do you feel now, John, after playing two Jack games in that style? How do you feel about it?
I don't like it that much. I don't know. I feel like Jack 3 impressed me even less than Jack 2 so far.
Ooh,
I,
wow. Okay.
maybe those are very strong words. I know the community at large feels very strongly about Jack 3. A lot of folks love it. A lot of folks love like the driving aspects and different things like that. But that's what that was my biggest turnoff, I think.
Okay.
The platforming aspects were fine for me. I'm fine with anything that was different about like the UI or the story. Story's fine. You know, I don't mind Jack in kind of like a Mad Max desert apocalypse scenario. That's fine, I guess. You know, if we're gonna have Jack in the city, may as well have Jack in the desert Mad Max
Mm,
wasteland. But
right.
why why are they driving cars with tires, Christian? In the second game, they had hover cars. In the
Right.
first game, Christian, they had
Well, I
hover
mean,
cars.
okay,
And
yeah,
you
but
can't pitch no, but
to I
don't
mean,
pitch that they're on the outskirts of the city with limited access to
right. They
technology
were
because that
teleported to another area that doesn't have the same access to resources as they did in the first game, right? And the only
first
life
game
known to be in this area, except for those in the elite, apparently, is that within the city. So everyone else outside the city are like more tribal, more primitive, or whatever, right? So I mean,
but
it kind of makes sense, and
he
from a story standpoint, but from a non-story standpoint, honestly,
yeah,
my guess is a lot of fucking people probably complained about the cars in Jack 2.
I guess. But
So
like
they were like, fuck that,
dri-
let's change it up.
fair enough. And if that is the reason, that's fair. You need to make your game fun. You need to draw on your audience, right? That's fine. You can come up with a
Right.
story reason around it and kind of explains it, and that's kind of something you can gloss over. But in the first game, I would like to counter. He lived on an island,
Yes. Yeah.
separated from everyone. They had limited resources. He had to scrounge for resources for the one chick to fix her vehicle. That was one of the things you had to do in the
But they had the power of eco to help them,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
right,
But no,
right.
so I mean, okay, so
Fair
that's
enough.
valid though. I see what you're saying. But I personally, my time with it with Jack 3, I
Yeah.
found it more enjoyable than 2
Okay.
for a couple of different reasons, and
I
we'll
think
talk about them. The first one
that's
for
fair.
me is that Jack 3 feels much more polished than 2. To this
Yeah.
day, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like Jack 2 was meant to be a different game, got changed halfway or three-quarters of the way through develop, and then we just ended up with, you know, a buggy, incomplete kind of game. At least that's how it felt to me with the little bit of time that I've spent playing it, right? There was a lot of geometry, for instance, it's my example I always go to. There's a lot of geometry you could walk up to and then just walk straight into. Like,
Yeah.
just there was no hit detection on so many things in that game, and just little bugs and annoyances throughout it and whatnot. And I didn't experience anything like that I can think of playing Jack 3. Jack 3 felt like a complete game. I
Right.
personally still do prefer Jack 1 from what I've played
Yeah.
so far, but
Right.
I've completed Jack 1 100%. I've only
Mhm.
played a couple hours of Jack 3, so I can't say for sure yet.
Right.
But that's just where my mind went, right? Like Jack
Mhm.
3 better than Jack 2 for me.
Okay.
How far did you get into it? Did you do 1 hour, 2 hours? How
I
roughly how
did
far did you get?
I did 1 hour. I
Okay.
watched all of the opening cinematics and cutscenes and things. I
Right.
did the opening level where you're in some kind of prison, um, Thunderdome scenario.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Which
then
you end up returning to a couple of times, and I don't really understand, like, it's for me at least, it wasn't a particularly interesting part of the game, but from
right,
what I can tell, you only end up having to do that a few times. Again,
gotcha,
only played the beginning, could change later on, but I think you
gotcha.
only have to do it a couple times.
Okay.
Hopefully.
So I didn't mind that. Like you said, the platform in this game is very polished.
Hmm.
It is shockingly so, honestly. It's very well done, and that's something that's a compliment that we've paid all of the Jack games, is that the platforming is just razor sharp. They
Yeah.
did a very good job. Um,
There were
but
some small problems with level design here and there that made platforming difficult, but I
sure,
mean, any large game has its imperfections, right? There's no such
right,
thing as a
right,
perfect video game, so I'm not going to hold
sure,
that against it. But yeah, it
right,
does it does feel nice to run
yeah.
around, roll around, jump around, etc., etc.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So then we get on to the vehicle stuff.
Mm,
Almost right away. One of the very early missions is racing. You have
yes.
to complete a race. Sorry, no. You don't have to complete a race. You are encouraged you have to win a
Yeah.
race in
Mhm.
first place
Yeah.
to progress the story. If you don't win in first place, the guy doesn't respect you and he's going to throw you out of the community. And that's the storyline. That frustrated me a little bit. I was like, okay, why what if I have to win in first place against him, why am I racing against like 5 cars?
Right.
Like
And the other thing I
I'm
didn't
racing
understand with
against
that
like
whole
5 cars.
situation,
Shouldn't I just have to place or like get there and within
right.
a certain time? Like get there within 3 minutes or something, you know? Like why that seemed kind of confusing, but it's not the biggest deal. I guess the most frustrating thing experienced was the driving control. To an extent, it wasn't bad. I've definitely experienced way worse driving control, like in the early Twisted Metal games on PlayStation, random games here and there that just have driving stages. Oh yeah, much worse driving controls. But for some reason, there was something that just really made me just got on my nerves. I don't know
So
if it was the other drivers around me, like the AI of the competition, or what it was, but it seemed like I had a big hard time with the driving stages. Any driving stage, I was having a
I
huge
uh
hard.
I didn't personally have much of a problem with the driving. Some of the cars do feel a little bit awkward, and it definitely took a moment to adjust to the way the driving works. But to take it back for just a moment, the gentleman that has you drive or race right against his goons or whatever you want to call it, I
Right.
don't really understand the power structure of this city, right? Because whenever
Yeah.
you first get here,
Yeah.
you meet the guy who puts you through the little gauntlet Coliseum thing.
Right.
Excuse me, sorry. And you get the impression that he's like the leader of all of this, right?
Yeah.
And he's telling
Right.
you to go out and do these things, and you have to complete the gauntlet of challenges here at the Coliseum to be
Right.
accepted. And then you find the racing guy, and the racing guy is like,
Uh-huh.
"Hey, I'm gonna kick you out if you don't win this race." And it's like, but like,
Right.
do you have that power? Are you in
Yeah.
charge? Because I could have swore
Can
that
I
other guy was in charge. Why are
can I
you now
talk to
telling
your
me what to do?
manager?
Right?
Right.
Like that's what bothered me more than anything.
Right.
But what I
That's
will
fair.
say about the driving though is you very quickly unlock access to other vehicles, which I
Yep.
appreciate because it at least switches it up, right? You get a buggy
Yeah.
that can jump around, you get different buggies with different kinds of weapons attached to them and things. Um, so at the very least, most of the driving missions that I experience don't feel the same, right? It's not like they have you repeating the same thing over and over again, at least, which is
That's fair.
something I really appreciate about the game.
Yeah.
Something that I think they did very well was
Hmm.
for the first couple of hours is keeping it a little bit different, right? Nothing gets too stale. I do wish there
Sure.
was a little bit less of the driving, but
Hmm.
like the section that I ended it off with, I got a jumping buggy, and that took me
Hmm.
to this little area, like a little I don't know, haven almost temple thing with more greenery and some weird creatures and all this. But it was a platforming section. It was a purely platforming section that was just completely unlike everything else that we did leading up to that. And at the end of it, to get down, because you're climbing up like the hill or whatever, to get down, you hop on a hang glider, and then you're actually flying through the air at that point. And I just like the variety that the game offered
Okay.
compared to the time that I spent with Jack 2, where everything felt very samey and, like I said before, incomplete. So
Yeah.
big props to Jack 3 for that. I 100% um, enjoyed it more than 2, without a doubt
Gotcha.
in my mind.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me about the Jack sequels is how different they are, but also how similar they are at the same time. Like, I feel like there's not enough variety to interest me in a new game, and there's not enough the same to make me want to replay the same game. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Yeah, sure.
it's kind of striking like a middle ground of meh for
Right.
me.
Like they like
That's
it should have either been more like Jack 1, or they should
right,
have just made a new IP for
right,
this series again, which honestly
I,
is pretty much how I feel about it too, you know. When I first booted up Jack 2, I think one of the reasons I was so disappointed with it is because I was expecting a fun, mostly lighthearted, colorful platforming experience,
right,
right, with some
exactly,
action thrown in, and instead I got a family friendly GTA knockoff
right,
that
yeah,
didn't work as well. Like,
right,
and so like
exactly,
I
yeah,
totally get where you're coming from, but I think
yeah.
Jack 3 kind of found a way to mesh the two experiences a little bit better.
It's
I
definitely better, yeah. And I'm also aware that there's a hoverboard at some point during the game. As soon as I get a hold of the hoverboard, I'm gonna feel much better. I love hoverboards. So, um, that'll be good as well. I just like to goof off on them in
Hmm.
games. So,
I mean,
um,
that's the one
yeah,
thing with any GTA style game, right? That is
right.
so great in my opinion, is
Goof
the
off.
ability to just, yeah, to just goof off, to hop in a vehicle and just cause havoc or whatever. Which again
Right.
is one of the reasons, honestly, why I think the Jack series doesn't do it as well as GTA, because I mean, it's not like GTA where you can just go on a murderous rampage of all the citizens and then get
Right.
chased down by the police and what. I mean, I guess they kind of tried that in 2, right? Like you
Yeah, but you
did
die too
have the
easy
cop mechanic, and yeah, it was just, I don't know, it
for
was
that kind
missing.
of gameplay.
Yeah,
You know what I
it
mean?
was
You
missing
die in a few
something,
hits.
and
So,
that may very well be what it is. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it was definitely
yeah.
missing something.
Like you
um
said, in Grand Theft Auto, you can take a city of cops on a chase and try to get your
yeah.
stars up. There's an incentive for you to mess around and cause damage as well
Mm,
as, just wanting to because it's fun.
right.
So it's I think maybe that's what it was losing, but yeah, the whole the whole experience was just kind of meh for me. So I'm not gonna downgrade it for that. I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't, spoilers. I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't play just one more level or anything like that. But it didn't impress me that much. It felt like more of the same in kind of negative ways, and it felt like nothing new in kind of negative ways for me. But I feel like that's not fair. I feel like there's a lot more that this game has to offer, especially a lot more than it has to offer than Jack 2. And
Mm.
I plan on playing them as soon as I can here. I think on the PS4, they have
Oh,
them on
the collection, yeah.
now the
Yeah.
Plus network. The
Yeah.
new and improved PlayStation Plus network has these
Right.
games
Well, I
available
mean,
to
they
play.
also had them physically at one point as well. It's
Yeah,
just, that's,
right.
yeah, it's just the Jack and Daxter collection or whatever. That's actually the first time I played Jack 1. That's how I played it, or at least played it
Okay,
to completion. I played the HD port for PS4, I guess. I don't
right.
actually remember which console I have it on, but I'm
Okay.
assuming PlayStation 4. And
Yeah.
oh man, I absolutely loved it. And I do think that like a nice, proper 16:9 support and slightly up-res graphics and models and things, I do think would make the game slightly more enjoyable. But at the end of the day, those ports were just, graphical improvements to the best of my knowledge. So like the gameplay loop is still exactly the same
Right.
between them. And yeah, man, like I don't know. I don't have anything overly negative to say about Jack 3 like I did
Oh,
with
yeah.
2. It's
Right.
just it's a better version of Jack 2. It's honestly, if they were going to make that switch
sequel.
from fun lighthearted platforming to slightly gritty GTA style Jack or whatever. I wish they would have went straight to 3 and just skipped 2 entirely. I guess at
That's
the end of the
fair.
day is
Yeah.
how I feel about it. Like Jack 3
Mhm.
feels like what Jack 2 should have been. If that's
Yeah.
the if they had to make this
That
style
makes
of game for
sense.
Jack 2, because I feel like it
Right.
should have always just stayed a platforming, lighthearted, fun platforming adventure. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, though, that's our opinion, right? There
Mhm.
are a lot of people out there who think Jack 3 is the best game in the series. And I
Yeah.
can't ignore the fact that there is a large group of people that feel that way. So obviously Jack 3 has something to offer for people. I just think maybe it's missing that note on us, or it takes longer for that to set in, right? Than the couple hours that we've played of the game.
Right. Well, this would have been different too back in the day if you would have been a kid in the 2000s playing these games growing up. You
Right.
know, when Jack 3 comes out, that your life has shifted now. That is what you do now.
Mhm. Right.
Like,
Well,
you know,
and with
that's
that said, too, I think that's actually a fair point, right? If you
Mhm.
had played Jack as a youngin, let's say 9, 10 years old or something, right? Jack 2 would have
Mhm.
came out in your edgy 12-ish year age, and then Jack 3, the slightly more mature of the three games, then would have been your 14-ish year thing or something. So I could see how someone could grow with the games very well. I think that would have been an
Exactly,
interesting
yeah.
circumstance to play them in, to
Mhm.
literally grow with them as the series kind of grew and got more mature. But
Right.
having played all three mostly as an adult, I
Mhm.
kind of like the fun, friendly Jack one the best, man.
I
I
think
don't.
I think it works the best. It has the most interesting mechanics and world and story going on, you know what I mean? Like you add all of these GTA elements, right? You add in the third game now we have gunplay. So we add gunplay to the game. We add all the vehicle stuff. We add the open world mission accepting type gameplay. And we lose all of the different types of eco. You know, I don't see any different types of eco anymore. It's just dark eco now.
There is
And
light. You
I
do
guess light
find light
eco
in
later in the
three.
game,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I've heard I remember that from being a kid. I remember the light eco and the dark eco, and then I remember the hoverboard from being a kid and watching somebody
yeah.
else play it. Um, but you know, where's the red eco? The red eco would make you stronger. The green eco would heal you, you know, and the blue eco would supercharge you. That's fun. You know, bring that kind of stuff back. Why did we lose the colors of eco and just focus on dark eco? Why is it that Daxter got dunked in dark eco once and turned into a little critter, but Jack gets subjected to it over the course of years in this prison in Jack 2 and becomes some kind of superhero. Like why
Luck of the
what
draw, man. You know,
I get yeah, I mean
50-50
but
shot. Some people turn into furry creatures. Other people turn into
right.
monsters slash superheroes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So
that's
I think I would have liked to have seen more explored with the precursors. What
mm,
are they've kind of dropped that aspect in this Wasteland storyline and beforehand in the city storyline. They were trying to bring down like a mega corporation in the second game, right? Like a
yeah,
military hold on the city they were trying to overthrow. It was like rebels versus government.
right, right.
So, like, what happened? What's going on with the precursors? You were talking about them in the first game, and how they were these ancient
And
peoples that
there's
built this massive, wonderful technology. You know, what's going on there? Can we get a Jack game where he explores ancient underground cities and has to parkour all over them and solve
right,
puzzles?
yeah, yeah.
That'd be dope as shit.
And from what I've seen of Jack 2 and 3, like there's still little tidbits of it thrown in there, right? Like you still find the little statues that want the orbs, the precursor orbs
Right.
and things.
Uh-huh.
But it's just in the time that we've played with them, at least, yeah, they never
That's
really
fair.
go in depth. I mean, a viewer is telling us right now, if you're watching the video, that they
That's
do
true.
explain it
Yeah.
apparently later on in Jack 3,
Yeah.
but we can only talk about, the first couple hours of it. And in the
That's true.
first couple hours of it, they don't bring it up enough to really draw you in. Which
And
brings me
that's
back to what I was
fair.
saying earlier is,
You
it
wouldn't
seems
really,
like
would you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it seems like there's just not enough there to really capture you, to hold you in the first couple of hours, which
Right.
honestly I think the first couple of hours of a game is one of the most important. It's a
It is.
very common criticism for my favorite genre of games, JRPGs. So many
Right.
of them take literal hours to just get to
It,
the point and pull you into it. And
right.
that honestly is something that they need to fix. And I would say the same about Jack 2 and 3. Maybe they both are amazing games,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that we've both spent at least 2 hours with it and didn't get to see any of that amazing stuff
Right. Right.
is still a problem. Even if the whole game
Exactly.
as a package is amazing, the fact that the first 2 hours are a letdown is a
Yeah.
problem, man. One of my
Right.
favorite games of all time, Final Fantasy VII,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love that. If you sit down and play it today, the first couple hours can be a bit of a drag. Like, it
Yeah.
takes a while to get into,
That's
and
why
that's a
I've never
problem
gotten
with
into
it. And
it.
I'm willing to say that about my favorite game, and I hope
Right.
other people can see that too. Now,
Right.
as I mentioned, though, I did play about 2 hours, and right towards the end of that, I did start to see some interesting stuff, like the light eco thing and the platforming with
Gotcha.
the temple and all that stuff. So, like, I would
Gotcha.
say around an hour and a half, 2 hours is where the game starts to get good for
Right.
three, but two just never had anything to pull me into it,
Mm.
and that
This
sucks
was an
because I
interesting
can't
section
play
here.
three until I play two. Oh, yeah, for
Right.
anyone who's not watching, there's a random like rhythm game hacking section,
Yeah.
but with like
Yeah.
tentacles and a virus or something.
Uh-huh.
It's weird.
Uh-huh.
It's
It is weird, but Jack runs across some kind of, I suppose, fair enough, right, Nate? The precursor. He runs across some precursor stuff and hacks it with his dark power knowledge that he got from the last game, I believe.
right.
Um,
That's a very
so
technical way of saying he walked up to it and
yeah,
things happened. He didn't quite know why, but
no,
they did.
yeah, the character doesn't know why, so it's fine that the audience doesn't know why.
Like I said, Jack 3 actually I did have a lot of fun with at the end of the day, right? It had some problems grabbing you, but it was a lot better than one. And I oh man, did you get to
Right,
the
Chris
one
Primitive.
driving section with where you were like hunting giant dinosaur looking things, like shooting them with the car? Did you get to
No,
that
but I'll
point?
tell you this. I got to the driving section where you're hunting artifacts for the stupid dude, and
Oh,
you're out
yeah.
there fucking driving around, and then they come up and drive in front of your car
Yeah.
so you can't make
Yeah.
the ramp and shit. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And they would, like, drive up around you. They not only try to knock you off the road, but they literally, like, drive up and around the front of your car
Yeah.
and then drive at an angle to slant you and get you from
Oh,
not making the jump in time, and I was like,
this
"This
is something
is some
fun.
bananas
If you're
AI
watching the
for."
stream still, this is something
Yeah,
really fun that I forgot to mention in there. I love this about the game. The
okay,
orbs that you collect, you can then
mhm,
spend on cheat codes and extra options and things like that to
that's good,
change
yeah,
your
that's
gaming
awesome.
experience. That's actually
I didn't
something
get
really
to
really cool that
didn't
I
get to
I wish
experience that.
more games would do. Because that's just really cool. I mean, again, if you're watching, they have like weapon upgrades, stupid stuff like big head mode,
Yeah,
art gallery, just random things like that. And that is honestly one of the coolest things. I loved that in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That was one of my favorite things about it. As you did side missions, you unlock more cheats that you had the option of enabling or you could ignore. And some of them were just cosmetics. Like one of my favorite ones turned all of the nuts and bolts in the game into rupees from Zelda. They were called something
nice.
slightly different so that they weren't rupees technically, but they were
Yeah,
rupees very clearly they
mhm,
were. And then there were other ones like it turned into energy drinks, right? You could change the look of your wrench in the game to be something else, like just stupid stuff like that. That was just really
that's,
fun. I really really liked it.
they did the same thing with Lego Star Wars, at least the first 2. I'm not sure how it's transformed into the newer Lego games, but in the first 2 Lego Star Wars, they did the same thing. At Dexter's Diner, you could spend just the Lego studs, the
Yeah,
coins,
yeah.
essentially you collect during your game, and extras like that. You could buy really meaningful ones for like a million studs. You can buy invincibility and not
Mm,
take damage anymore.
right,
Or,
right.
you can buy silly ones like make all the characters purple, give everyone giant lightsabers, tiny make everyone fight with spoons, weird stuff like that, like you said. Like
Make
wigs,
everyone fight with
mustaches.
spoons.
I
I just
forget what it
want to
was.
get
I
a
think it's
group of I just want to
it's
get a
broom.
group of like 20 guys
I think
together
broom.
now, and we
Yeah,
all get just like a normal little spoon, not like a big wooden
right.
spoon or anything fancy, just a
Like a
little
teaspoon.
dinky,
Right.
yeah, a little dinky like teaspoon, and
Trying to
the
sword fight.
smallest ones we can find, and then yeah,
Right.
and then fight each other with it. Um,
Yeah,
it
for
just
sure.
yeah,
That sounds like
that's
fun.
gonna be coming to a YouTube video near you.
You're welcome. Ahead of time. You're welcome. Yeah. Um, so that's Jack 3. Kind of underwhelming, guys. Sorry about that. It's we need a little bit more time with the games, I think. But that's not what we do here at this podcast. We're the Just One More Level podcast. So if it doesn't grab us in the first couple hours, we don't have much to say about it. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. Please try it out for yourself. I would recommend the game. I would play Just One More Level.
Yeah, and at the
Um,
same of the day, or at the end of the day, I'm the same, right? I would definitely
that's
play
yeah,
more, but it's not because of so much my enjoyment of Jack 2 and 3
right.
as much as it is everyone else around me telling me no, 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 like it really does get good. And then
Yeah,
my love for Jack 1 as well
right. Yes.
is kind of what makes me want to play 2 specifically. 3 I had more fun with, so I probably would have played more of it on its own anyways, but
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would as well, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Play just one more
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. All right. Well, that just about wraps it up for the podcast segment, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and listening on your podcast provider of choice because you don't have to, but you do. And we appreciate it. So thank you. And until next time, we'll see you.
But
Bye bye,
bye,
everybody.
everyone. Have a wonderful night, afternoon, morning, whatever it is for you, wherever and whenever you are. And as always, be kind to each other. Bye bye.